Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Real ID goes live, and this is something 20 years in the making. President George W. Bush signed off on the Real ID Act May 11th, 2005. And the movement for Real ID came out of September 11th. Of course, the attack on that day brought about this idea of Real ID, an idea that had been debated since 1968, but the need for more security for the people and how Real ID could provide it. And we're going to go back and look at what was being debated in 1968 and why the federal government decided to not move forward with a national ID. Essentially, the bottom line was it created the ability for the feds to politically monitor and manipulate people perceived as enemies. It was seen how it could be part of a police state and how people could be hurt by the federal government for political reasons. This is why a national ID didn't happen because, again, our federal government continues to grow in power and reach and control over the individual. And initially, when this nation was created, that was not the idea of federal government. It wasn't supposed to be this super powerful thing that had major influence over people. This is supposed to be the land of the free, the home of the brave, not a place where you're surveillanced and the authorities know every last move you're making. The debate in 1968 about a national ID was right alongside the debate, which did pass, about putting serial numbers and federal tracking on every legal gun in U.S. circulation. And of course, that came out of the MLK and RFK assassinations largely. But the national ID conversation was there as well. And 1968, if you're new here, consider, you guys, 1968 was how many years ago? From 2025, was it 57 years ago? Is Real ID now going live on 5/7? We're going to get to why that is. But again, 1968, I always call it the year of years. I made a huge point about this in the first book I wrote. I talk about 1968 all the time on this channel. Look into all of the things that went down in 1968. Again, the fact that the act was passed because of 9/11. Remember, 911 was made the national emergency dialing code in 1968. World Trade Center construction began. That's the year Osama bin Laden went into a very wealthy, exclusive private school in Saudi Arabia. It's the year Muhammad Atta was born. It's also the year Timothy McVeigh was born. It's the year that George W. Bush graduated from Yale and also graduated from Skull and Bones, the powerful secret society. And let's not forget the movie that came out right before he won the election about Skull and Bones, starring Paul Walker, where he gets in a red Porsche, or he gets a red Porsche in the film. Similar to how he ended up dying in a red Porsche 5 years to the day of Papa Bush dying. The same Papa Bush who gave a speech about a new world order, September 11th, 1990, 11 years to the day of 9/11. Papa Bush was in the CIA in 68 in his lead up to becoming vice president before becoming president himself. Boeing, the founder of Boeing, is also a Yale Skull and Bones member. Boeing debuted their jumbo jetliners in 68. Boeing out of Seattle, just like Magnus and Clementic Associates, one of the main architects of the World Trade Centers, along with the Japanese American who designed the World Trade Centers. When you think Japan, you think of kamikazes. Think about 9/11 and kamikazes. If you don't know what a kamikaze is, it's a pilot who flies his plane into the target and kills himself in the act. 1968, just so many things went down that year. It's also the year that the feds approved fentanyl. Fentanyl was approved in 1968. It's generating a lot of 911 calls now. Fentanyl. It's also the year coronavirus was coined, 1968. Remember, 9/11 had 19 hijackers. Then 19 years later was 2020, the year of COVID-19. What's interesting about this year being 57 years after 1968 is 57 is divisible by 19. It's the moon that is on a 19-year cycle. Every 19 years, the moon's in the exact same place in the sky that it was 19 years earlier. And 3 cycles of 19 is 57. Funny enough, in Gematria, moon equals 57. We'll get to the greater significance of 57 here. But yeah, the point I'm making is this is a major ritual. And in 1968, they said we can't have a national ID because it's it's part of a police state. It could be used unfairly. It's just giving government too much power and authority and tracking capability over the people. But here we are now, after being scared to death from 9/11 and scared to death from C-19. Now we got real ID. Got real ID. Country's moved a long way from 1968 due to all the fear mongering on TV. And consider TV was a newer thing in 1968. It had only been around for so long. Go back to 1968. There's a lot of people that hardly had a TV in their house yet. But now most people have God knows how many screens in their house, in their pockets. Screens everywhere you look. So we're going to come back to why it's being implemented even further on May 7th, the 127th day of the year. But here, just to go back to these Cliff Notes about the 1968 debate about the national debate over a national federal ID card. The main arguments in favor of such a system, this is the national ID card, included combating fraud, streamlining immigration control, and improving national security. However, opponents raised serious concerns about privacy rights, potential misuse of the data, and the risk of a police state. The debate remained unresolved in 68, and a national ID card was never implemented at the time. So the arguments were, again, that it could combat fraud. Proponents argued that a national ID card would help to reduce fraud, particularly in areas like voter registration, welfare programs, and social security benefits. Streamlining immigration control. A national ID card could facilitate the identification and tracking of immigrants, making it easier to verify their legal status and streamline immigration processes. And again, that's huge in focus right now. And think about the authorities creating the problem so that they can bring about their planned solutions, which provide them with greater control over humanity. Ultimately, the government is here to control, not to facilitate, not to create a fair playing field, but to control and manipulate, to steal people's wealth and allocate it to their own funds, their own bank accounts, their friends' bank accounts, all the things you see going on with our government. Improving national security. Supporters suggested that a national ID card could be used to identify and track potential threats to national security, particularly during times of crisis or conflict. Remember, 68 was a big-time year of conflict. A lot of crazy stuff happening in the world, including major assassinations. Arguments against a national ID card. Opponents raised significant concerns about the privacy implications of a national ID card, arguing that it would allow the government to track individuals' movements and access sensitive personal information. And think about how much far we've come from 68. That was the concern in 68. How about now where big tech is synced up with Big Brother and they're sharing data and information? Potential for misuse. There were concerns that the data collected on a national ID card could be misused by government agencies or private entities for discriminatory or oppressive purposes. It's not hard to imagine how that would work. Right now, you get in trouble on social media. I'm sure several people have had this experience over the last decade. They make you upload your driver's license. Now they make you do this face scan thing. Just think about how all this could end up working out. I mean, it could be a future where you have these offenses online and there's literally, monetary punishment in real time. A scoring system. You got to go to a job interview and they run your federal ID and just everything's right there. Oh, man, this person's had some, they got a red rating for their online activities. And how did they get a red rating? Oh, they were just questioning the news. Well, now they're pretty much ineligible for employment. In a way, we're already here. I mean, we're already here. It just makes it the system all the more concrete. Again, I've been dealing with things like this for a decade now. Risk of a police state. Some individuals feared that the introduction of a national ID card would lead to a more authoritarian and intrusive government, which increased surveillance and control over citizens. Well, I mean, it's clearly where we are in the 21st century. Again, at the time, there was no outcome. It was just introduced and debated and left unresolved. But isn't it funny how it was 1968, the year of years, and now here we are 57 years later on 5/7? So to go over some of these things, May 7th is the 127th day of the year, which is not an arbitrary number, 127. It's the 31st prime number, and 31's the 11th prime, and in numerology, 11's the master number, and there is a master plan being executed against us. With regards to the 127 and this going in on the 127th day of the year, which is what May 7th is, 5-7, remember what secret society has been with this nation from the beginning and has a headquarters in DC, the House of the Temple. It's the Scottish Rite, which has a highest degree of 33. And should remind you that from 1968 to 2001, when 9/11 happened, was 33 years. Again, it was after 9/11 that Real ID was passed by the federal government, and it's now being implemented all these years later. It's a reminder these people work at a slow pace. I mean, it's been on the books for a long time, but now it's actually getting implemented 20 years later. Anyhow, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry equals 127. Scottish Rite equals 57. And to break it down further, notice in the base ciphers, Real ID has the 49 and 113. Look at just the word Scottish alone, 49, 113. So, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, proper title. Scottish Rite, proper title. When you say Scottish, it should trigger Masonry because it's this all-important thing in history, and just how the numbers line up perfectly is also the further point. Like I said, the moon works in a 19-year cycle, so this is 3 cycles of the moon, 57 years. And again, just in the most simple cipher, moon is 57. The moon's 19-year cycle is very important. That's why a lot of religious holidays that are in cycle with the moon will fall on the same day every 19 years. Now, again, just about Bush being the president when the Real ID Act was passed. Remember, his father was the one that liked to say New World Order a lot, and he gave that speech 11 years to the day about how the New World Order will be realized. He gave it September 11th, 1990, 11 years to the day of 9/11, 2001 in New York, largely the 11th state, where the buildings look like an 11, and it was flight AA11, and it was the 11th of the month, and a number of other things, but 11, the master number in numerology. Consider that May 7th, it can be written 5-7, as we just talked about. It can also be written 7-5. It depends on where you are in the world. But New World Order is 75. Identification is 75. This is the real identification system being realized after a 57-year debate that goes back to the year that the whole plan for 9/11 clearly went into motion. Again, World Trade Center construction, 9/11, Boeing debuting the jumbo jetliners. Again, every plane on 9/11 was Boeing. This is what I mean about understanding this knowledge and seeing the agenda that's being pushed forward. It doesn't matter what administration's in there. It doesn't matter who's in the Congress or in the Senate. All of these people are carrying out a plan that's moving from decades ago. Several people in the Congress and Senate weren't even alive yet. Some of them were little kids. But they're now the ones implementing the agenda. Here, for people trying to call in, I will take calls. I didn't open up the phone line yet, but I was just about to. So if you do want to phone in, let me set up the system. I will start taking some calls here. Actually, hold on. Before I take calls, I want to do one more thing. I want to recommend a YouTube channel. I'm still not super happy with this person, but I am now thoroughly convinced that they're not a shill. They're just someone who's not quite as informed. You might know this person. Years ago, they literally ripped off my video about 1968, and they presented it as their own research, and then they got called out by their own community on it, and then they denied that they copied my work, which was literally a ripoff of the exact same video I put out one day earlier. And I was like, why can't he just admit that he took the work? But again, the same person kind of liked to knock me. And anyway, I've always told you that this person's my favorite shill on YouTube. I'm going to say that they're not a shill. I'm going to say I was wrong about that. They were, again, I don't know what all their motivations are to be here. And they're still not all the way informed. They still think that Zionism is what runs the world when it doesn't. It's the Jesuits, and that's undeniable. I have seen this person softening up about me because I did see them on their channel talking about the debate I had with those two morons who were completely incorrect. And he was not favorable to those people. So anyway, who I'm talking about is Brian. He used to have a very successful channel. YouTube allowed him to exist for a long time. He allowed him to grow his channel to 500,000 subs, and his work was never bad. I mean, him and I are on board about things. He's very opposed to the federal government. He doesn't like religion. He doesn't like the two-party system. He's trying to break people mostly out of the two-party system and get them to see what the federal government actually is. My gripe to this day is still that all he ever talks about is Zionism. He thinks Zionist bankers run the world. They do not. I'm not saying they're not a part of the cabal, but again, who runs it is who is the tip of the spear. And if it's not the Jesuits, they're very close to the tip, and it would be something like the Orsini family who stands behind the Vatican. Again, it's not Zionist bankers, and it's such a played out thing, and that's what Brian continues to this day to blame everything on. We need Brian to evolve. But I did want to play Brian's video on the Real ID, and the other thing that I realize is Brian and I are now in the same boat. We both had our channels censored. We both had to start over. We both do similar things. We cover the news and try to get people to see through the programming and think more logically and critically about why they should not allow their minds to be controlled by these things. However, sometimes Brian buys into the news too, which I always scratch my head about. I'm like, okay. A lot of people are like that. Like when they want to use a news story for their own, no, the news every day is a psychological operation. But anyway, I've always thought, even though there's a lot of things I don't like about Brian, that in terms of all the people who put out content almost daily on YouTube, his message is better than almost everyone else's. And because he started this new channel, he's hardly getting any views, just like yours truly. If you end up watching this, Brian, if you want to watch a recent video, it was put up by, if you find the channel that's put up by the YouTube people, maybe a couple weeks ago now, the guy was talking about how if you cover news, you're going to have a very difficult time growing your YouTube channel because they want people to specialize in topics and just keep doing videos about the same topic. I was like, God, listen to how lame this is. This is what they're trying to turn people into, like one-trick ponies? I think, honestly, the reason they did it is, but he was expressing that if you try to cover the news, that's not consistent in terms of what you're putting out as a YouTube product, so it's going to be very hard for the algorithm to figure out and understand what your channel's about and promote you. Whereas if your topic was the same thing every single day, then they're like, oh, that's what your channel's about? We'll cater to those people. If you're a Trump diehard, and every video is about how great Trump is, then they know how to promote that. If you hate Trump, they know how to promote that. But if you're talking about this news story and then this one, and again, like we do, you're pretty much screwed in the new system. And Brian here, he did end up getting 5K views on this, but that's not great. You know, once upon a time, he would have got hundreds of thousands of views, just like yours truly. And I know a lot of Brian's videos now are between 1 and 2K views on the Disturbing Illusion channel. So what I would like to see Brian do is evolve past blaming everything on Zionist bankers. I don't think he does it in this video. But I am going to play his video for those of you guys who are not familiar with Brian. He's not doing as much advertising. Back in the day, every video was loaded with just advertisements. So I'm glad he got away from that as well. But he also covered the Real ID thing. I'm going to play this real quick, and then we'll take some calls. Here's Brian. I'm going to also bump up the speed just a tiny bit to 1.25. I like to do that when I watch videos. Here we go.
All right, check your calendar. Starting May 7th, you'll need more than just a regular driver's license to board a flight.
The TSA will begin enforcing Real ID requirements at airports across the country.
We've been talking about Real ID for a long time now.
We really have, and now it's here.
It's happening.
Things are getting real.
The propaganda arm for the military-industrial complex and the mass surveillance state have been preparing American minds for a big move that appears innocuous. Real ID.
If you don't have your star card yet, you should probably think about getting it. The deadline to get that Real ID is right around the corner.
If you have not gotten your Real ID yet, time is running out. The deadline is...
I gotta love how Brian tied in the Star of David as a little graphic with the star card. Again, you could argue a halfway fair point, but don't forget, you do live in a land of stars and stripes, too, that's been here for a lot longer. So we'll continue. And don't forget, the Catholic Church does worship the nearest star. And, of course, Israel was created in a totally Catholic ritual. It's why State of Israel equals the Jesuit order. 145 more chapters in the Catholic Old Testament, thus the 14/5 establishment. But anyway, let's continue.
Next Wednesday, that's May 7th.
The Real ID will be required to travel domestically on planes or get into federal buildings.
The Real ID deadline is coming up, and you'll need them in order to board a plane.
The TSA's deadline for...
It just, you see how the news showed a fake ID just as an example with the 218, the 218. Again, that's why when you have this knowledge, you see what they're doing. February 18th is the 49th day of the year, right? Real ID is 49. So is America. So is Washington. Remember, Holy Roman Empire is 218. It supposedly folded on August 6th, 1806, the 218th day of the year. That was 218 years ago right now. We just had the Pope die on Rome's birthday. And if you look back at the history of how Real ID got here, there was a big date on Rome's birthday with this legislation, which is now being, it's been enacted. Now it's being fulfilled. But yeah, again, that's just why the power of this knowledge, just the things you pick up on, the numbers they're throwing in front of your face every day. They just had to show that ID with the 218 date on it. Not an accident. Not an accident.
For Real ID is almost here, and authorities say they will be enforcing it.
A Real ID.
The Real ID deadline that we've been telling you about, it's here starting this coming Wednesday.
The rubber is about to meet the road when it comes to Real ID.
That's right. You're going to need it to do things like fly across the country.
No, your current Idaho driver's license is not a fake ID, but unless you've already gotten the STAR card, it's not a real ID.
New at 5, we've been getting a lot of questions about the STAR card.
We've been talking about Real IDs or the STAR card for years. Now the real deadline to get one is approaching with no extensions.
The Real ID deadline we've been telling you about, it is here. We've been telling you starting Wednesday, you're going to need one to get into some government buildings or pass through airport security.
Well, the Real ID deadline is now less than a week away.
The deadline is here. You will need a Real ID or a passport in order to fly in the U.S. or enter most federal buildings.
The Real ID Act.
We call it the STAR card. And if you don't have the STAR on your driver's license or a U.S. passport, it will be harder, that is, to travel by air or access federal buildings.
Real ID becomes a reality.
The deadline to get your Real ID quickly approaching.
Every air traveler 18 years of age and older must have a Real ID compliant ID.
Take a look at the new driver's license. See that star in the corner? It's not just a design. It's a symbol of something much bigger. A system called Real ID.
Brian, it's like you're going out of your way. It's a 5-pointed star and you put a 6-pointed star over it. Come on, man. Come on. Stop it.
On the surface, it's about security. It's always about security. State security, national security. But peel back the layers and you'll find questions that should make every American pause. What's really going on with Real ID? Passed in 2005 after the 9/11 attacks, the Real ID Act was sold as a way to make America safer. It sets federal standards for state IDs, ensuring they're secure enough for things like boarding domestic or international flights or entering federal buildings. And it sounds reasonable, right? But here's where it gets murky. To get a Real ID, you need to hand over your most personal documents, a birth certificate, your passport, your social security number, 2 proofs of where you live. These aren't just checked, they're digitized. They're stored and shared across state databases. Every detail from your name to your address locked into one new system you can't see or control. And by May 7th, 2025, if you don't have one, you're grounded. No domestic flights, no international flights, no access to federal facilities, not without a passport. And this looks and smells like stronger centralized control hiding behind the mask of safety and security. And why would anybody be shocked? The general welfare is always the alibi of psychopathic control freaks. And it's never for your safety, and it's always about more control. Here's the kicker. States are required to share your data with each other through a national network. The Department of Homeland Security says it's to stop fraud, to make sure you're not holding multiple IDs. But what happens when all that data, which amounts to your very identity, is in one place? It's a hacker's paradise, a government's wet dream. Critics, including the ACLU, warn that this could be a surveillance gold mine. And some say it's the first step toward a national ID, a system where the government knows exactly who you are, where you are, and
I don't know why I say it's the first step. It is a national ID. That's exactly what it is.
What you're doing. Now let's talk about the whispers, the conspiracy theories. Across platforms on social media, people are calling Real ID a Trojan horse.
By the way, just with regards to the word conspiracy and this whole 5-7 thing and 57 years after the initial debate, I mean, look at it, you guys. I mean, the word conspiracy itself has the 57 right in it. Conspiracies are a real thing. This was a long time coming, and they had to scare the bejesus out of everybody to get here.
force. They say it's not just about security, it is about control. A way to track your every move, to tie your identity to a digital leash. Some even fear it's a backdoor to a globalist agenda where your freedom to opt out vanishes. Soon you'll need a real ID to go out to dinner, enter a library, pay rent, get fuel, or even buy food. Is it all paranoia? It could be. But when the government mandates your data to be collected and shared, and you can't board a plane without complying, you have to wonder, where is the line between safety and tyranny? Where do the requirements to participate in anything in society end? How much of this are we willing to tolerate? Besides, don't we already know that no matter how paranoid or conspiracy-minded you might be, what the government actually does is far worse than you can possibly imagine? Yes, at the present time, you can still opt out and get a regular ID or carry a passport for federal access. But let's be real. How practical is that? They're going to make it as inconvenient as possible. Real ID isn't mandatory yet, but it's being woven into the fabric of daily life. And once it's the only key to travel or federal access, then what happens next? Will it be required for voting in the slave suggestion box, for banking, or for even existing? Will you need a federal ID to buy a home or rent an apartment? The slope we're on.
We don't even need to ask those questions, of course. Of course. I mean, you have to provide ID for almost every transaction you make. And I can just see how in the future this thing is going to have a social credit score along with it. And there will be consequences and punishment. Just like pretty much everything else that's tracked. Your credit is tracked. And if you have good credit, it opens the door for a lot of things. If you don't, it closes the door for a lot of things. Social credit. No doubt it's coming. They've already implemented it in places like China. I feel like they've already implemented it in the U.S. Right now, it's the unwritten rule. It's just like I told you, when I remember my first book got banned on Etsy. It was my lone source of income at the time, and it did very well. I sold about $1,000 worth of books on Etsy until it was banned per week, about $1,000 income, and then it was just cut off because they just banned it. The book had nearly 1,000 reviews, all 5 stars. No reason to ban the book. There was nothing wrong with it. Then when I put out my second book, I waited a while, but then I tried to upload my second book to Etsy. And what's funny is it's there to this day. Since I uploaded there, it sold 2 copies, and this is now years ago. I wish I had never uploaded it because when I uploaded my second book to Etsy, what happened almost overnight, and then it was very obvious in the days and weeks and months, now years since, all of a sudden my mom's Etsy business got destroyed. She used to sell wreaths and flower arrangements on Etsy. She did very well on there. She was making, well, in terms of very well, she's making about $50,000 on there before her expenses, which is probably, probably making $30,000 a year profit on there. For some people say, well, that's nothing. But I mean, for her, it was great. The point is, once I uploaded my book there, all of a sudden, just like nothing. I mean, she since that was years ago now, that's probably 4.5 years ago. I bet you she hasn't even sold $3,000 on Etsy since then. Probably not. It's probably $1,000 worth of sales since then. And her business was 10 years established, doing that year after year. And ever since I uploaded my book, just all of a sudden overnight, no business, which means they just essentially cut her off in the algorithm. Her stuff wasn't making the feed anymore. Nothing changed about her quality of work, but just like that, nothing. And again, I just think that's the age we live in. You can be punished. All this digital connection, just, yeah. So anyway, let's continue with this video.
Ron feels really, really slippery. The Real ID Act raises serious questions. Why does the government need this much data? Don't they already have enough on us?
Hold on, you guys. I have a delivery person here who keeps delivering somebody's mail from 3 miles away at my house right now. I need to go talk to them real quick. Sorry, I'll be right back. All right, my bad. I had to do that. And he was delivering they were delivering the package for somebody else again today. How about that? Okay, sorry. And it was funny because the other day he got an iWatch delivered to my house and I opened it without realizing it. I was like, oh, snap. I didn't order this. And I ran it back to his house and he's like, oh, this is my birthday present. I thought, thank God I took it to him. Anyway. All right, let's continue with this video.
Protecting it, and what happens if it's misused. This isn't just about a star on your license. It could potentially be the precursor to the all-seeing eye into your life. It's about your privacy, your freedom, and how much control you're willing to surrender. The deadline is on May 7th. That's when the rules change. That's when the game changes. Take a look at this ID again. That star might be small, but what it represents could change everything in a big, big way. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and always keep the spirit of resistance that resided in our founding fathers in your heart. Leave your thoughts for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below.
All right, he does this with every video, and I was like, I don't even, just like projecting the wrong thing, but in a way it's true. The 5-pointed star goes back to Rome as well. Again, to keep overlaying the 6-pointed star, I feel like that's a bit disingenuous. I wrote 5, it's not what I meant to write. Rome, for the example, has the gematria 57 too. This is the nation's capital full of Roman architecture. 5-pointed star is significant with Rome. 5-7, 57 years after the debate began. Do you see how Rome is 51 and 57, just like conspiracy? DC was once known as Rome on the Potomac. Federal's also got the 51 connection. But yeah, again, I know Brian's very aware of everything that went down in 1968. So Brian, if you end up watching this video, you might want to incorporate that. And I don't know what's with always having to blame everything on Zionism. Did Israel not get the worst of the scandemic? I mean, I'm pretty sure they did. Doesn't that kind of like help you think like, oh, maybe they don't run it all? If they ran it all, why would they get the worst of the scandemic? Again, all the faces of the scandemic were Jesuit-educated men, and that's just point-blank period across the world. Easily provable, easily verifiable. You learn this code, you understand why they were doing what they were doing. I got to wrap this up in about 20 minutes, but I would like to take some calls on what you guys think about the Real ID, what you have to add. If you would like to call in, the number is on the screen. It is 509-560-4982. And yeah, again, just cliff notes. 57 years ago, the debate started for a national ID. It was decided, here, let me show you actually one other thing that I meant to show. So George W. Bush signed the Real ID Act into law May 11th, 2005. May 11th, 2005. That was 6 days after I finished my undergraduate. Notice that from September 11th, and they did on the 11th, right? And then it passes on May 11th. Notice that was 44 months, 0 weeks, 0 days, right? Police state in the most pure cipher, that's the alphabetic order with numerology, is 44. The fear in 1968, what was argued against it is this could be the basis of a police state where people could be politically persecuted if the feds have the ability. Because think about with an ID, you guys, in this age, like your purchases, right? You got to show ID, a verification system where everything's getting scanned. I mean, you could have a federal government that knows so much about your behavior. Purchases, how often you're getting a drink, just everything. There's just so many dangers to our government that keeps more and more data and information about everybody. And of course, for the person out there, well, I could think of good reasons listen, if you want your government to police the world and monitor everything, you really need to think about what your government is behind. Your government is behind slavery through a large part of history, genocide of people, instigating wars all over the world, CIA overthrows of governments. Our government is behind so many nasty, evil, atrocious things. Is this the government you want monitoring what is good and bad? It's just a horribly deceptive, dishonest government, too. It's the one that demolished your towers and blamed it on a man in a cave and got away with it, which has led to this moment. Yeah, I do believe I opened up the phone line here. People were trying to call in earlier when I wasn't taking calls. Again, if you guys do want to phone in, now is the time. It is that number on the screen, and I do believe it is on the screen. Yeah, it is 509-560-4982. But yeah, Real ID going live on 5/7, 57 years after the debate began. Let me see. If we don't have any calls, we can wrap it up. The day it passed, May 11th, of course, what stands out to me about that date is... Oh, hold on. We got a phone call here. What's up, 407?
I missed a little bit of the stream, maybe like a couple minutes here and there. So I don't know if you already went over this, but did you see that real ID equals 119 in the Jewish?
Well, speaking of September 11th, how perfect.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, the guy who came up with the real ID idea, his name is, let me see what it was again. Jim Sensenbrenner. And he's currently 81 years old, kind of like how Donald Trump equals 81. And we're back in his second term. And his name also equals 248. Which is
He's got the same birthday as Trump. Did he catch that? That he has the same birthday as Trump?
Yep. Same birthday. And then, yeah, he has a 248 like President Donald Trump. So it makes sense that they bring it on now while he's 81. Same birthday as Trump during Trump's second term. And then the 5/7 date, he's won over all the 57. So
June 14th is also the flag's birthday. The flag's birthday. So, yeah, June 14th, very interesting date.
But yeah, there's probably more to him. I didn't look too much, but that's what I found in about 2 or 3 minutes. So, I mean, you always say how everything, lines up perfectly, and it is a perfect day and perfect time for them to bring this real ID, make it official.
All right, yeah.
That's all I had to.
Great additions. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
The Jewish cipher, which Derek renamed Latin, keep in mind we are in the time of the 119th Congress right now as well. We are in the 119th Congress. Remember, in that same cipher, Donald equals 119, and Donald Trump was part of 9/11. They did interview him that day. He was worried about his insurance firm on the 102nd floor, like how 9/11 was simulated 102 days before it happened with Operation Amalgam Virgo. Again, Al-Qaeda's got the 102 like Art of War. And, with regards to Virgo and the moon's 19-year cycle and 57 being 3 of those cycles, I did notice that the moon is in Virgo on May 7th. The moon will be in Virgo on May 7th. Remember the September when 9/11 happens, Virgo. Operation Amalgam Virgo is what was simulated 102 days before the attack. And yeah, a bit interesting. So, okay. Space Invader points out that ID has the same gematria value as star, which is 13, going with the 13 stripes along with the stars on the flag. Yeah, very interesting observation. Thank you for your generosity and observation. If we don't have any other callers on this topic, I thought we'd have a bit more people that would want to phone in. I guess low passion out there for how people feel about how the surveillance state's being built by the numbers. Yeah, it's too bad that more people don't want to talk about what we're talking about, and so many people have gone out of their way to put down this work, including Brian. Because again, it actually shows the agenda and truly how far planned out these things are. Caller?
All the way from Wisconsin.
Yeah, what's up? Speaking of Wisconsin, what's up, 608?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to, I don't really have anything to add, but I just wanted to say that your historical knowledge alone pretty much buries anything else on YouTube. And whenever people are hard on you, it just, I don't even know how you know all this stuff, but you're also the only, I don't even know what to call it, person in this type of community that I was introduced to you on Crow 777, which, I mean, obviously I don't go with everything he goes with, but then the only one I've ever heard be on that and you were on Ground Zero that one time. So I've never seen that before, but I think you're the real deal. Everything in Wisconsin is named after Marquette, you know.
Yeah.
The whole Jesuit thing. So like it just once you pointed it out, it just hits me in the face everywhere I go, you know. So I just wanted to thank you for that, and I'm kind of driving right now, so I don't have anything to really add. So, but other than that's pretty wild with the star thing, I guess.
Just a little piece of information. So the 5-pointed star in Italy is known as the Stella d'Italia, and it represents destiny and unification. And what's interesting is the gematria of that phrase. Stella d'Italia equates to 125 and 44, just like police state, funny enough. Kind of like how Bush signed it into law exactly 44 weeks after 9/11 when... Funny, that's what I always thought from the time I was 18. I was like, they are doing this to build a police state. That was always the word on my mind. So go figure. But
is IBM involved with that too? Like they
actually,
were
hold on,
World War II.
They very well could be. But you know what else is 125 and 44? Now that I think about it, in the same ciphers, Wisconsin.
Well, you'll know
Wisconsin.
I won't, so...
The guy who wrote the laws from Wisconsin. What are the odds?
What's his name? I didn't.
Let me get his name
What's
up here again.
Name?
His name is Jim Sensenbrenner. Jim Sensenbrenner.
Yeah, well, like the whole Lake Michigan, you know, Michigan and eastern part of Wisconsin is just everywhere. Is just Marquette, the guy who went on the canoe or whatever, and found, you know. And then they had that show, I've only seen a few episodes, that is on FX about the English guy fighting the Jesuits in Japan or whatever.
Oh, the new show they put out, Shogun?
Really, yeah, that was, I've only seen a few of that, and I don't know how, obviously it's, you know, propaganda or whatever, but sometimes those do touch on it a little, you know, but I'm just saying, I'm sure it's not historically accurate at all, but what is, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know, even all our, I mean, I know this is like this everywhere, but all our roads, all our, you know, every 33 hitting 32, and there's, I don't even, it's, we have Rubicon rivers and Rubicon little towns, and it's pretty nuts. But yeah, you probably know more about Wisconsin history than I do.
No, I guarantee you got me there. I guarantee you got me there, but I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Well, I didn't even, the Capitol's wild inside there with the,
I did have to laugh. I had to laugh though when I was in Milwaukee, when I was going out to New York for 9/11 the other year. I had to laugh that the tallest building in Milwaukee had a big Catholic Life on the top of it. I thought, how perfect. Catholic Life. Here we go.
What is it? It's like, I can't,
in Milwaukee, the tallest building has the words Catholic Life on the top.
Oh, well, that's Marquette University there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, they're the only, I'm sure if you looked in though, I mean, I'm sure you already know it. Whenever the heck, you know, they won the Final Four in the 70s or whatever. I think it was like 71 or 2, or I don't know. I'm sure there's all kinds of codes in that.
Yeah, no doubt.
And they had the one basketball player from that team drafted into the NFL. Sure, he never even played football. I know they had like a gazillion rounds back then, but yeah. Anyway, I'm sure you got a lot to do, so I'll be calling back again sometime when I got something.
Appreciate it, 608. You have a good day. Thank you.
Yep. Keep doing it. Yep.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you. And shout out to Marilyn Miller for the generosity. What's up, 559? No, let me. The audio's
really quick, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
I gotta know from you. The first thing is, I mentioned a woman last time I called in. I know you probably don't remember her, but there's a couple of very significant people I believe that have opened my eyes. One is a woman named Rosa Quarry. She's now deceased. I don't know if you heard of her. The other one is Deborah Tavares. A lot of your listeners will recognize her name. She does a lot of exposing of documents and a lot of the stuff that happens in the world. She has a website called stopthecrime.net. Anyway, I heard her on a program the other day, and she kind of mentioned, I had never heard her say this before, but it was kind of par for the course of, with the things that she exposes. She mentioned Gematria and your work. And I was kind of surprised. I'm like, damn, all she knows about that. And she, a woman like her, trust me, giving acknowledgement to your work, that further just solidifies, the truthfulness of what you're doing here with this Gematria. Another thing I wanted to know, man, with you doing the things that you're doing and others like you, and I don't want to ask you like this, but I have to. Are you ever afraid of anything, like exposing anything?
Nope.
What makes you not have a fear of that, and what motivates you to do this?
Well, I mean, the motivation is to not live in a police state, which looks like it might be a futile effort because we're getting closer and closer. And again, for everyone who's so afraid of what might happen to them, you're ultimately going to end up in a very horrible world because you didn't speak out. So I guess because I have enough intelligence and foresight to see that, that's the motivation. And again, for people who don't know the story, I have put up with a lot of weird stuff. I've had to deal with a lot of weird stuff. I mean, I've been threatened. I had a car crash through my house on Christmas Eve. I had my home raided and a whole bunch of shit stolen. I've been arrested in my front yard. I've had people leave dead animals on my doorstep, all kinds of weird stuff in the mailbox, all kinds of weirdo calls and people threatening online. But again, I call their bluff. And the other thing is, I mean, I live in the U.S. I'm allowed to protect myself. I'm well equipped. You want to come to my house and mess with me, you're going to probably leave without a head. I got 3.5 inch shells in the shotgun that's, right around the corner. I mean, you don't want to get hit with that. It's going to be closed casket. So I guess that's the mentality over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, you have your purpose in life, and no matter that you found your purpose, you have to carry out your mission, no matter what someone else thinks about it. I understand that. Another thing I wanted to know from you, and you probably don't have the answer to this, but this beast system that we're in, these Jesuits that control this beast system that runs the planet, can it be beat?
Sure. Yeah. There's a lot of us. If people would all fight back, it'd be beat. Like I said, imagine nobody went along with the lies of the scandemic. Beat. What if nobody fell for 9/11 and cheered on a needless war that cost us trillions of dollars in people's lives? Beat. All it takes to beat them is to stop complying with their system. And there's more ways. I mean, there's people looking into how to escape the all caps name system. And there's again, if more people are researching truth and how to fight the system, they'd be done for. Their whole world revolves on everyone being under the spell and being mind controlled and going along with all their lies. Again, if everyone's over behaving the way yours truly is behaving and other people in this community, they're beat.
Yes, but it seems, okay, yeah, in theory, it's easy, simple enough. Nothing can exist without the consent of all the people because there's too many people. That's simple enough, an explanation, but getting all these people on one accord, that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
It seems,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that seems exponentially more difficult. One last thing I want to know from you. I have a friend who's kind of, he's just kind of a dumbass. I don't want to say it like that, but he watches a lot of these dumbass podcasts, believe everything that they see on TV. They just believe it, and that's how it happened, and all this kind of, and then he really was sold out on Trump. Oh, Trump, this and that. And I'm telling him, I'm like, yeah, man, don't believe everything you see. And you don't know that Trump, he's one of them, man. Stop believing all this bullshit. Yeah, he's going to, yeah, he said it was going to be we were going to have to suffer for a little while, and then it was going to get better once China caves, and then we have it our way. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then I couldn't really explain to him in the way that you articulated the 145 and then the other, the 125%, and how that lined up with the gematria. But how would you explain to a person this? I know you do it every day. But how would I explain that to this idiot that Trump's one of them and the numbers?
Just stick with all the 47 rituals he's doing it now is number 47. Show him how he implemented tariffs. Again, it was a mega 47 ritual. It was 47 months after the last time he implemented tariffs, the first time he was president. That was on the 47th day of the Pope's age. It was exactly 47 weeks after the anniversary of the publishing of Wealth of Nations, the book published by the father of economics, who argued why tariffs are destructive and should not be used except for in very rare cases. Just show how Trump equals 47 and what's special about that number, and how all of a sudden he wants the Panama Canal back 47 years after we gave it away, and the numerous other things he's done. I mean, just go through my notes on all the 47 stuff since Trump took office. Show him what they just did with the Kentucky Derby this weekend in tribute to 47, where we nailed it again. Again, how this knowledge can be used to take advantage of the rigged game, and how you can see right through the rigged game. Show them how, again, what was I saying years ago? I was saying why Trump would come back and he'd be the new Grover Cleveland, and Grover Cleveland caused economic pain for the American people in his second term by making dumb economic decisions. Trump's doing the same thing because it's an act. It's history repeating itself. It's the phrase, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Show them how split term equals 132, going with the 132 rooms in the White House, and how Grover Cleveland was the last split term president 132 years ago. Show them how Cleveland equals 78, and Trump's 78 years old. Now he had his convention in 2016 in Cleveland, and yada, yada, yada. I mean, there's a whole catalog of videos that you can show from years ago, us saying why Trump was going to be installed in 2024, and he's a puppet just like Biden and the rest of them.
That all of that, it makes perfect sense to my brain, but some of these idiots, and one in particular I'm talking about, man, he'll say that's a coincidence.
Well, that's what, and that's the real obstacle, is just how dumb people are. That's why it's challenging. And honestly, I think if you know dumb people, it's better just not to associate with them,
Yeah, I get that. One last thing before I let you go, man. I'm in California here. We can't do sports betting. They do have like DraftKings and the other one, I forgot what it's called, Prize Picks, but it's not like the other sports betting sites, man. And I want to be a part of your Patreon and take advantage of all this stuff, man. But how would I do that? How would you do it?
Well, there are ways that it can be done, but you can also get yourself in trouble. So probably I would just say wait until it is legal in your state, because it's only a matter of time.
Damn. Okay. All right, Zach, man, you take care.
All right. Yeah, you too. See it. Yeah, I'm not going to advise anybody to do anything crazy so they can sports gamble on my Patreon. You might end up with a whole lot more problems than you bargained for. So, but I would encourage you all to support the work at least $1 a month. There should be way more people pledging $1 just to get this work further out there. All right, let's get 917 on here. What's up, 917?
I seen your post on Mark Carney. Did you talk about that yet?
Yeah, Mark Carney at the White House today, 51 days after his birthday, saying that Canada will not become the 51st state. Again, federal's 51 like Rome. Yeah, we just covered the whole.
Remember you had.
Yeah, he won the 45th election 45 days after becoming the interim PM. Now he's meeting with the guy who was formerly number 45. Go ahead. What else did you have for it?
No, remember he took office on March 9th, and it's 39 days until Trump's next birthday. Canada equals 39.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Just wanted to, I didn't see that on your post, but I knew that was that go with it.
All right. Well, I appreciate that.
Great work, Zach. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, man. Take care. Yesterday, Mike Pence was on the news for Cinco de Mayo, talking about the price shock that's still to come from the tariffs, because things are just starting to set in. Just look how price shock and Cinco de Mayo overlap. And then do you see how the one cipher where it doesn't overlap? Again, if you're new here, these are the 4 base ciphers: alphabetic order with numerology, reverse alphabetic order, reverse with numerology. You gotta love that Cinco de Mayo equals 55, like 5-5. Yesterday also had 55 date numerology the way it falls this year. But yesterday was the 163rd anniversary of the battle that Cinco de Mayo relates to. And that was a war against the French, like the Jesuits are from the France. But see how price shock's also 163? 163. Man, just wait till you see what's about to happen to those Mexican avocados. You already thought they were expensive? You already can't afford avocados? Just wait. Yeah. And again, understand, none of this is by design. It's not really because Trump's a moron. Trump's just an actor. The morons are the people who don't understand that Trump's an actor, and when you vote in rigged selections, all you're doing is that. You're voting in a rigged selection, validating a lie. The real morons are the people who voted in this election. I don't care if you voted Democrat or Republican. You're a moron. These people are actors. They're carrying out an agenda by the puppeteers. And that is the Roman Catholic Church. There's a reason that architecture is all over D.C. There's a reason the Roman fasces are on the wall of the House of Representatives. And Brian, if you're out there, let's have a serious either conversation or debate about why, because I've seen you gaff at the idea of Jesuits before. I've seen you gaff at that. And like, seriously, overlaying a 6-pointed star on a 5-pointed star, that doesn't feel a bit disingenuous. It doesn't feel like you're reaching to constantly blame everything on Zionists. Because I can show you day after day how this stuff syncs with the church and the superior general. We can do that day after day. And here, case in point, the Real ID is getting implemented on the 177th day of the superior general's age, just to make a point. Real ID goes live on the 177th day of the superior general's age, the Jesuit Order 177, New World Order 177. I forgot to put that in there. And is New World Order not also 7-5? 7th of May? That's not an accident. That's a reminder who runs the system. 202? 202, hello? Hello?
What's going on with you, my man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Hey, also want to bring this up to you as well, because I hear you always talking about the Kentucky Derby and March Madness and the Masters. Remember, you hit the college football championship. No one else but you. Even when Notre Dame had that embarrassing loss to Northern Illinois early in the season, you said they're still going to be there. So anybody else who doubts you.
For people who don't know, college football preseason, we said Georgia should run into Notre Dame in the college football playoff, possibly the championship. And if it's not either of those teams to win the championship, it will be Ohio State through Johnny Gaudreau's death. So we had futures in for 3 teams preseason: Notre Dame, Ohio State, Georgia. We had all the right bases covered, and we did very well with Notre Dame, riding them through the whole college playoff. And yeah, I mean, that's just this year. We've hit futures consistently better than anybody for now going on over a decade. And people still want to hate.
Exactly. And like I said, after that Notre Dame, when they had that embarrassing loss to Northern Illinois, you said Notre Dame is somehow, some way going to end up in the championship. So anybody who wants to sit here and hate on you, they're just jealous because, you just keep hitting future bets and stuff. I mean, they're just haters, man.
What do you think about a guy? Here, case in point, we hit the Derby, and the next guy, a guy who's been in this community since 2015, next day does a video debunking Gematria because he put out a Gematria pick and had the wrong horse, and because he gets it wrong and I get it right now, he's just debunking the whole thing. I mean, yeah, that's just stupid.
Is that the same guy from Tampa, Florida?
No,
the one that got
he's
ran
from the
off
middle of the
by
country. I think he lives in Iowa. I forget where he lives. I call him the Cookie Monster.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I had to throw that out there because I know you were mentioning March Madness and the Masters and the Kentucky Derby. I said, man, hold on. You hit the college football. Even when Notre Dame had that embarrassing loss early in the season, you said they were going to still be there. So,
I know that gay guy that lives in the basement in Florida. He put out a video about that and said, "Oh, there goes Zach's future." It's like, oh, looks like you were wrong. Looks like that was a good time to double down. So.
Yep. All right, man. Well, yeah, I had to throw that out there, man, because you were just mentioning the other 3. I was like, nah, you gotta talk about the college football national championship as well, because no one else picked Notre Dame but you.
Appreciate that. I know you said that helped a lot in your work pool, so yeah.
Yeah. All right, my man.
All right, yeah, you have a good day. Take care. Thank you.
All right. Peace.
Yeah, I mean, hit the elections, the sports, tell you what's happening in the news, crypto, markets. I mean, we've done it all. We've shown the worth of the work, and for some people, it's just never enough. Oh, okay. Okay, then tell me who the next pope's gonna be. I need to hear who the next. It's just like, dude, do you understand it takes time? Like, I'm sick of making. Why do I need to make any more predictions for you to be convinced? Who in the world just hit March Madness, Masters, Kentucky Derby? show me the other person in the world who did it, because yours truly did. And by the way, for all the haters out there who aren't on Patreon, we're like, I don't know who did it. How come, I wish there were people in the world motivated to clip all of the good stuff and put out those videos. You know, like my hater, he makes it seem like we get things wrong all the time because we put out a ton of predictions a day. So I'll put together a compilation of 10 things we got wrong in the week. It's like, okay, we had more right this week than wrong. Some of those picks were absolutely amazing, like super spot on picks. Nobody's doing that. And it just shows you that there's more hate in the world than anything else and more jealousy. And that's a huge problem with humanity. That's part of the reason humanity's not coming up, because we're all clawing and competing with each other and instead of working together. And you can't accuse me of that. I've always helped build up a lot of people, gave this knowledge out for free for a long time. When I finally monetized it after over 5 years of doing it for free, I put on a very bare minimum price to get life-changing knowledge. Again, what's the real value of this knowledge? Is it $5 a month? Is that the real value of all the hard work and the knowledge? If the true value of this knowledge is $5 a month, which is what I charge for it for pretty much the whole time almost until, and again, that was after 5 years of totally free. What should a college education be worth? Should a college education even be able to charge $5 a month? I'd say no, because I'd say almost any degree you get is inferior to what you can learn from on my channel. And I say that with a completely straight face, because almost all degrees are completely worthless and you really can't do much with them. I'm talking about a knowledge that can enhance your entire life, not getting played by the system, taking advantage of the system. So yeah, again, what's the average state tuition right now? Between 10 and 20 G's a year. So break that down per month. That's like $1,000 a month plus. Easily, this knowledge could be worth $1,000 a month. But what's sad is all these indoctrinated sheep out here, they kind of say, I don't think it's worth it. You don't got $1 to pledge. And then they're at McDonald's getting fatter and fatter and closer to diabetes and death, putting shit in their mouth that doesn't belong there. And that's the problem with having a really dumb population. They don't know what to invest in. They don't know how to make any of the right decisions. They're broke as a joke. They're dumb as hell. They think Donald Trump's the savior. They think this shit's a coincidence every day. And again, case in point, the Cookie Monster making a video yesterday. A guy that literally probably weighs, I said he weighed 400 pounds. I was probably being generous. He's probably, I don't know how tall he is, but he's just fat as hell. He looks like he's auditioning for Jabba the Hutt. I mean, it's just like, God, this is exactly what's wrong with the world. Just this fat, obese moron. Just making the dumbest arguments left and right. And another part of me, though, does have my eyebrow up because he has always been fat as hell. But when he first came into the community, he was helpful. So I don't know. I guess you keep putting shit in your mouth over the years, you might get dumber and dumber. He might have chemically dumbed himself down somehow. I don't know what it is. It is quite strange. All right. Thank you again to the super chatters. Marilyn Miller saved the day with 50. Appreciate that, Marilyn. Space Invader also with his ID star observation. It's funny, $52 raised. Of course, greedy YouTube takes 30%, but what a fitting day to raise $52. It's the day leaving 239 days left near the 52nd prime. And yeah, I think we will leave it there for now. If anybody wants to try and get this video in front of Brian's face, I really would like to have Brian either have a conversation or a debate about why he's so hung up on political Zionism. Again, he says it all the time with no real evidence behind it. It's just like, every day I show you guys why I say it's the Jesuits. Again, they gave us the calendar, the language. They moved the capital to where it is, a million other things. But yeah, this Real ID system does go live on the 177th day of the Jesuit leader's age. And that 177 numbers, another big one with the Jesuits. The 177, all those numbers show up with the high Jesuit rituals all the time. And you see how the Jesuit order's 84? Again, just like United States of America's 84, just like the word Jesuit alone is 84. Again, the Fabian Society is an offshoot of the Jesuits. It was established in 1884. If you write out the Catholic Church, I know Cookie Monster was like, sometimes you can put a the in front of it. I'm just only making the point that when you do it, it does equal 84. And is it not true that the U.S. has had diplomatic relations with the Vatican since 84, since 1984, the Orwellian year? Is it not true? I suppose that's why the point stands. So if you can explain why you think that's all a coincidence, that's what I would like to hear. Why is that all a coincidence? You remember how Anthony Fauci, Jesuit educated, was the head of the NIH since 84? Have you ever read George Orwell's 1984 and thought about that book in light of 9/11 and C-19 and the stuff that goes on in this country every day? Anyway, I do got to go get Sweet Girl. Thank you again to everyone who hits the like and the share. Brian, if you're out there, man, let's have the debate or conversation, however you want to do it. I understand that Zionism's a thing, but why are we gaffing at the Jesuit influence? Why are we overlaying 6-pointed stars on 5-pointed stars when the 5-pointed star is really relevant to Rome and this nation, which gets all of its symbolism from Rome? Didn't Rome tear down the temple? Anyway, we'll leave it there for now. Until next time.